Now, this may surprise you, but people use buses more regularly in Reading than almost anywhere else. Bus usage in the Berkshire town is the third highest in the country outside of London. Only Brighton and Nottingham have higher numbers. According to government figures, there were 119 passenger journeys a year per head of population in Reading. That compares with 82 journeys per person in Southampton and only 50 journeys in Portsmouth. So what's Reading doing, which the South's other towns and cities are not? In a moment, we'll talk to our transport correspondent Paul Clifton. But first, Ben Moore got a peek at some of the new Reading buses coming into service.
Welcome on board. This orange bus is one of 6 greener double-deckers that are costing council-owned Reading buses nearly £1.5 million.
The vehicle itself is class-leading in terms of its environmental credentials, its fuel economy and the various technological aspects on board. So from a bus operator's point of view, it's a very efficient and robust piece of kit. But more importantly, from our customers' point of view, we really want it to be a very pleasant way of travelling around from A to B.
And with all the technology, it should be. Street deck buses cost £230,000 each, but for the price of your ticket, you can make use of USB charging, Wi-Fi and even a sofa. Yes, a sofa. And Reading buses are certainly sitting comfortably. Outside of London, the town ranks third in the whole of the UK for bus use, with 119 journeys made every year per head of population. That's equivalent to every person in Reading using the bus twice a week. So it's little wonder Reading buses have the money to invest. Its methane or cow poo powered buses are the fastest in the world, here setting a land speed record of more than 80 miles an hour. But with Reading's traffic, the new street decks are built for comfort, not speed.
It makes me want to bring my children on here because it's nice and clean now and not all old and like they used to be.
What about this sofa you're on?
It'd be interesting to see what it's like actually travelling along. Not sure whether we might be falling off that way or...
It's more airy. These charging points are a great idea. The free Wi-Fi is a brilliant idea.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Wi-Fi.
The buses will be on the road next week, but despite the bells and whistles, the best seat is still, as everyone knows, top deck at the very front. Ben Moore, BBC South Today.
Always the best seat. Well, our transport correspondent Paul Clifton is with me now. Paul, what's the secret of their success then?
Buses are hugely profitable, Ed. The big transport groups, Stagecoach, Go Ahead, Arriva, make 90% of their money from buses and only 10% from trains. But the picture is patchy. Think back to all those stories about cuts to council-funded bus services, all those stories about buses where they're full but the passengers are all retired people who are travelling for free. Wiltshire Council seriously considered withdrawing all funding for buses this year. It would have wrecked the rural bus network around Salisbury, where roughly 1 in 2 services receive subsidy. Most country villages already see far fewer buses than they did 5 years ago. In the big cities, it is a different story. Buses have modernised. They run every 10 minutes. They have Wi-Fi. They have air conditioning. And they're no longer sneered at by people who wear suits and not jeans to go to work. In places like Reading, where car parking is expensive and limited, they're increasingly attractive.
So what is it that Reading has done that others haven't?
There's no doubt that Reading Transport has consistently been a trailblazer. It has experimented in alternative fuels, not always successfully, and it's done so partly because of this image that is projected to passengers who might otherwise take their cars to work. The future of urban public transport in the south is very positive. In rural areas, the opposite is true, and that divergence is increasingly storing up problems for the future.
OK, Paul, fascinating. Thanks so much indeed. Paul Clifton, our transport correspondent there.